The father-son relationship is a very important one, so it makes sense that popular culture, both film and TV, would return to this subject again and again. The sitcom, for example, has often focused on the bonds that emerge between fathers and their sons, as have many animated films and dramas. Whatever form they take, the best father-son pairings in popular culture reveal much about how society thinks about this pivotal relationship in the institution of masculinity. More importantly, they also show that fathers and sons have much to offer one another. It's hard to think of a father and son more different than Jay and Mitchell Pruitt of Modern Family. It's clear that each of them struggles to understand the other, and for Mitchell, this means that he has a lot of bitterness toward his father, in particular concerning his sexuality. Nevertheless, as the series progresses, they find ways of connecting and bonding with one another, and, at the end of the day, they both recognize just how much they mean to one another, even if they don't always have the right way to say it. These 45 TV shows and films were breakout roles for super famous celebrities. Even though Ned Stark only appeared on Game of Thrones for its first season, he cast a long shadow. Moreover, it was clear that his son, Robb Stark, always struggled to be the kind of man that his father was, with decidedly tragic results. Even though both men had their faults, it was clear that they loved one another and valued their relationship. It was ultimately their doom that they were honorable men living in a world that increasingly placed no value on such a principle, and they were both ultimately betrayed by those they thought they could trust. Leave It to Beaver definitely looks and feels as if it's from the 1950s, but there's still something touching about the relationship between Father Ward and his son, Beaver. Ward is in many ways the ideal 1950s American father, capable of being both stern and wise when it comes to his sons. For his part, it's just as clear that Beaver idolizes his father, and their bond is a reminder that fathers and sons can be loving and close. The 25 most iconic acting families in movie history. Modern Family, as its name suggests, explores the various changes that have affected the institution of the American family during the 21st century. One of the show's most honest and authentic relationships is between Phil and Luke Dunphy. They are definitely a father-son duo to envy since they are both kind of weird and quirky, and only the other one can really understand. Watching Ty Burrell and Nolan Gould together, one can well believe that they really are a father and a son. Though Big Fish is somewhat subdued for a Tim Burton film, it still has its fair share of the director's macabre and whimsical imagination. However, the real heart of the story is the fraught relationship between Edward, Albert Finney and Ewan McGregor, and his son, Billy Crudup. Father and son definitely don't get along, and the film gains its emotional power and heft from the way that Bill slowly starts to understand and appreciate his father in new and profound ways. The 20 most clever TV shows of all time. Call Me by Your Name might be best known for its depiction of young romance, but it is also notable for the bond between Elio and his father, Mr. Perlman. Michael Stuhlbarg gives one of his most understated performances as the latter, and he allows the viewer to see just how much Mr. Perlman loves his son unconditionally. The scene in which he speaks lovingly and gently about the pain and the beauty of first love is sure to be seen as one of the best father-son moments in the history of the cinema. When Glee premiered, it was unlike anything else on TV, and it somehow managed to make the musical cool again. It was also notable for including many important LGBTQ+ characters, including Kurt Hummel. One of the most important relationships Kurt had was with his father, Bert, who ultimately became one of his most stalwart allies and supporters on his coming-out journey. Bert might not have always been perfect, but in the world of TV dads, he's right up there with the best. 20 celebrities who actually hate being in the public eye. Few series have become quite as much of an institution as The Simpsons, and it's hard to imagine American TV without it. One of the series' key relationships is, of course, the one between Homer Simpson and his son, Bart. Theirs is one of mutual antagonism, and in the early years, in particular, Homer was known for trying to choke the life out of his progeny. Even so, the two still care deeply about one another, and the show wouldn't be as funny if it didn't feature Bart always managing to make Homer look foolish. The Andy Griffith Show might appear a bit dated from the point of view of 2025, but its wholesome approach to the sitcom is sometimes quite refreshing. The relationship between father Andy Taylor and his son, Opie, is particularly notable. These two clearly love and respect each other, and watching them, one might be forgiven for thinking they were watching a real-life father and son. No matter what happens in Opie's life, he knows he can always count on his pa to give him love and some very sage advice. 20 big budget films that totally flopped at the box office. Master Splinter might be a rat, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't also make a great father. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have appeared in several forms, but one thing has always remained constant: their bond with their father, who always looks out for them and makes sure that they have the ability to defend themselves. The turtles might sometimes chafe at their master's overprotectiveness, but they also know they can always turn to him when they need something. The relationship between Logan and Kendall Roy on Succession may be deeply dysfunctional and even downright pathological, but this is precisely what makes it so fascinating. One can't help but get the sense that Logan really does love his son, even if he is also somewhat disappointed in him and certainly doesn't see him as a suitable heir to his considerable fortune in his company. As such, the relationship between these two is a reminder of how fraught father-son dynamics can be. 20 TV shows that wrote actors' deaths into the scripts. One of the running gags in the animated series King of the Hill is protagonist Hank Hill's befuddlement at his son, who is his opposite in almost every way. It may take him a while, but Hank finally comes around to accepting and loving Bobby for who he is, and it's always touching when the two find some way to bond. Moreover, Hank is at least a better son to Bobby than his father Cotton is to him, demonstrating the extent to which he is willing and able to break a toxic cycle. Few fathers and sons are more opposite than Martin and Frasier Crane. It's quite funny to watch them constantly butting heads, even as it's also clear that, despite their differences and their many disagreements, they really do love each other. Their bond is a reminder that when push comes to shove, there is no relationship that's quite like the one between a father and a son. Just as importantly, Martin often brings Frasier down to earth and gives him a much-needed dose of humility. 20 celebrity sets who've stayed close friends for years. Fathers come in many forms. For example, the bond between Will and Uncle Phil on the hit sitcom The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is very much a father-son dynamic, for all that they are uncle and nephew. While Phil is often exasperated by Will's flippant attitude and childish antics, the truth is that he deeply loves his nephew and wants what's best for him. In one of the series' most poignant and powerful moments, it's Uncle Phil who reaches out with the hand of unconditional love when his father abandons him. The relationship between Simba and Mufasa in The Lion King is one of the most important in the entire film. It's clear from the beginning how much father and son care about one another, and not just because Mufasa is the king and Simba is his heir. Their bond holds fast even after Mufasa's murder, and it's his words to his son from the spirit world that set Simba on the path to redemption. Only when he accepts that his father's death isn't his fault does he have the strength to push Scar off of his ill-gotten throne, and it's clear that he will be a king in his father's magnificent image. The country music groups that made the biggest impact on the genre. Finding Nemo, like so many other Pixar films, wears its heart on its sleeve, and it ranks as one of the best films the studio has yet produced. As its title suggests, much of its narrative focuses on the clownfish Marlin in his effort to rescue his son, Nemo, from humans. Nemo, like so many other kids, views his father as overprotective, but once they're reunited, they find a way to establish a balance, one that allows Nemo to stay safe while also going on adventures of his own. Goofy has been and remains one of Disney's most beloved characters, and his enduring popularity is due at least in part to his relationship with his son, Max. Their bond has been tested many times over the course of their respective careers in various Disney productions, but somehow they always manage to find a way to put their differences aside. When it comes down to it, Goofy is a pretty terrific dad, even though it often takes Max longer than it should to acknowledge this fact. 20 classic TV shows that still hold up. It's hard to think of better casting than Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones and Sean Connery as Henry Jones Sr. The two actors have phenomenal chemistry in Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade, and there are times when they really do seem like they are a father and son in real life. Aside from everything else, it's simply a pleasure to see two acting legends like Ford and Connery acting together, and the film as a whole is a funny yet also touching conclusion to the original Indiana Jones trilogy. Eugene and Dan Levy make for a great creative duo, bringing Schitt's Creek to memorable life. At the same time, they also make for a very hilarious father-son pairing on-screen, and it's always a delight to see John attempt to make sense of his son David in his overwrought approach to life. No matter how different they might be or how frustrated they might become with one another, there's still no doubt that these two love each other and will always look out for one another's best interests. 25 iconic songs that were massive hits for more than one artist. Father-son duos don't come much more complex than Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. The moment Vader reveals the truth of their relationship in The Empire Strikes Back is rightly seen as one of the most memorable moments in the history of movies, shattering Luke's sense of himself and his place in the galaxy. Just as importantly, it's ultimately Vader's love of his son that guides him back to the light and leads to him overthrowing the Emperor and restoring balance to the Force. Did you enjoy this slideshow?